Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is a returning guest to the show. Her name is Miranda from Miranda Creative, and we are here to talk social media today, amongst other things. First of all, welcome back to the show.
Happy to be here. An absolute pleasure.
Always fun having you on the show, always
Thanks.
talking about social media and other things. But let's start off with sort of a synopsis of what Miranda Creative is.
Sure. We are a full-service brand management firm. We have 13 team members, and we have about 250 active clients up and down the Eastern Seaboard.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
impressive. And
Thank
so
you.
what, as far as your ability to serve a client, what do you do for them?
So clients will come to us and they'll ask us to manage their brand across all forms of media, right? That could be public relations, their social media messaging, their graphic design and appearance, as well as the overall perception for the consumer experience with them.
Now, when you first started out, did all the areas of media in general, including social media, did that exist when you started out?
Oh, absolutely not.
No, see?
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. So it was summer of 1988. I was 24 years old, just out of college, and pretty much all that there was the daily papers and traditional radio, traditional TV broadcasts.
There wasn't even MySpace yet.
No,
that,
no.
It barely exists anymore.
It's barely there now.
Yeah, yeah.
So no, it was easier to make media decisions. It really was, because there was fewer choices and they had a much higher level of penetration, right?
Right.
Now media is much broad-based, and I talk about it being like thin frosting, right? Used to be able to get really great deep frosting, and now it's like a thin frosting across everything.
Right.
And that's the reason people turn to brand managers like myself, because they just can't keep on top of all the ways they have to communicate, but they have to, otherwise they're not competing.
Right. If you're not where the people are, which is, for example, social media in general, then you are missing out. Some people are very reluctant to want to learn it. It's about teaching the old dog new tricks, right?
Which is why I love lecturing, because I happen to be an old dog, hun, right? Especially in social media. I'm over 50 years old, and people have a tendency to think it's really only a young person's game, and it isn't.
Yeah.
It's absolutely just every generation.
As a matter of fact, Facebook is starting to get a reputation about being the I don't know if has been is the right word, but
Granny book?
The kids have moved over to Instagram and things like
yes,
that,
they
and
have.
Snapchat and Facebook, maybe for their parents or something.
Well, what's really interesting about that is, yes, I would say that the younger population, 16 to 24, is relating more to Instagram. They're checking it out every 16 minutes. Every 16 minutes, they're flipping through those photos, see what their friends are up to, giving it a little double tap for a heart, right? But they still have a Facebook relationship, right? Because that's where all their photo albums are,
Right.
And what did Facebook buy a few years ago?
They bought Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a direct relationship between the posting of the photos.
There's not really, they haven't done too much as far as really integrating it into, they still sort of keep it a separate entity. I mean, you can, the same time you post to Instagram, technically you can post to Facebook or Twitter,
Right.
but there's not like a super integration yet between the two.
Well, there's a main reason for that. One is an app,
That's a good point.
one is a web-based resource, right?
That's a good point,
So the app is nested within the web-based resource, but it will never be Facebook. There's no way for it to be the same tool.
And, I find Instagram a little limiting in the sense that it's really just about photos, and you can only comment if there's a picture that exists. You can't just post like you can on Twitter or Facebook, but I understand that's what it's meant to be.
Right, and it's meant to be that visual experience, right? And it's amazing how much it's influenced photography and other things. It's fairly universal, that look and that feel.
Right.
But now there's many apps you can wrap around Instagram
Right.
to add photos, to add text elements to it. And you can also do a series of collages and different tools. And now there's also videos, of course.
Right. And also the quality of the cameras that are in phones nowadays make taking pictures a breeze and also very beautiful.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
I was looking at some actual physical printed photos I had from a few years ago, and they are incredibly out of focus compared to the images from your phones these days, right? That film process was nowhere near as clear as
Yeah.
a pixel resolution on your phone.
And every time they come out with a new one, which is every year, the quality of the camera improves too.
They do.
Right.
Right. Ultimately, where it's become a tool for the camera.
Right.
The other day, I was asking someone to get my camera, and I actually met my phone.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
could you grab my camera?
That's a good point. I think
Yeah.
the least thing that's used on a phone now is the actual talking on the phone part, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
really it is, and I think unless you have a Bluetooth device to do it safely while driving or anything else, you're even more reluctant to do so.
And I think that was evident, even before that. But now you'll notice the phone, the wireless carriers, texting and calling are unlimited, and they're tossed in because the data is that's the part that's monetized now, right?
Exactly. The downloading of files, videos, content. Yeah, that's where the real money is.
Right. Texting, unlimited talking. Who talks on the phone anymore,
Exactly.
right?
We're not going to worry about that. Exactly.
How important? God, there's so much to get to. Let's get back to Miranda Creative because I want to get a little bit more deep. You've expanded so much that if I want to have you on the show now, I got to talk to your people instead of you, apparently. So that's how much you've grown,
Thanks.
right?
Thanks. I'll always remain humble. Yes.
But you've branched off into other areas too. It's not just I introduced you as talking about social media, but obviously you're a broad spectrum to help a potential client out. Now you're involved. There's a political branch to your company too, right?
How cool is that? Yeah, we launched a new division called Miranda Campaigns. And we are working clearly on political campaigns.
Now's the time,
Now's
right?
the time.
Yeah.
We actually had a great beginning a couple of years ago and enjoyed the process so much, and our clients enjoyed the process so much that when this next season came forward, we decided to launch a division dedicated towards it. Yeah.
And what do? A speech write? Find scathing photos of potential opponents? All that good stuff?
Where does your mind go?
I don't know. That's how I think,
So, no, we don't do that.
Don't do any of the bad stuff, right?
No. So what we do is the same aspect of brand management is necessary for candidates, right? But as you know me for a number of years, you know that we are positive space, right?
Right, absolutely.
So, absolutely, right? And so we run positive campaign messaging, right? Our mission behind Miranda Campaigns is called, a positive approach to campaign messagings. Change the rhetoric, change the outcome, right? So we don't believe in doing negative-based messaging. We prefer that our candidates talk about who they are, their points, their platform, and what they plan to do when they get into office or return to office.
That's a pleasant surprise for some people to not have to worry about, dirty tactics, so to speak.
Well, that's why they come to us.
Yeah.
Right? Right from the very beginning. That's the philosophy of our environment. And if you want to be part of that literally winning philosophy, to join us. And it's been a fantastic experience.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Good
really.
stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so I do a morning radio show on a very popular radio station, and a lot of times we'll discuss a topic, and then at the end we'll say, if you'd like to see the pictures of this story or the story, just go to our Facebook page and check it out. And that's great because even more so than a website, which is more static, your social media, your Facebook page specifically, is really, it's immediate. People can comment back immediate. Right. They can like back. It's necessary.
They can share it.
Right, they can share it. That's big.
That's critical.
Yeah. I do have some people that'll occasionally come up to me and go, Sean, I listen to your radio show, love it, but here's the thing. I don't have a smartphone, so I can't download your app, and I don't have a Facebook page. Obviously, some of these people are in the older category.
Sure.
But I say that, you can still enjoy the show. It's just that the social media augments the show,
It supports it, and it continues the experience, right?
Right,
That's what
exactly.
it's about.
It continues all day,
all
really.
day,
Yeah.
right? And for some time thereafter, right? Like right now, there's a very growing trend in Facebook of the memory sharing.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Where they're bringing back images from 4 to 5 years ago, right? They're doing that for a couple of reasons. They're reminding you that this is the one location that you can find all of those memories. So heaven forbid you shut down that account.
Right.
You're going to lose that.
That kind of insinuates that you should not close your account.
Exactly, right? And the other reason that they're looking at it and doing it in that way is that they're encouraging another level of sharing, right? To keep that memory fresh, that experience fresh, right? And reminding people that's part of the social media experience.
I'm sure there's a lot of those pictures that people forgot about, and that's why they go back that many years. Now, sometimes you don't want to remember them. You go, delete this picture. That was ridiculous.
I know it, and I think their memories are both good and bad, honestly, right? And so
it's your life.
It's your life. They took risks in doing that, but they did so for a good reason.
Do you like the way that Facebook has evolved and occasionally changes really the format, or because some people get annoyed by it, But what do you think?
Well, I remind them that it's Mark Zuckerberg's piece, not theirs. First of all, right? I remind them that
start your own if you want to.
It isn't my Facebook, right? It's his Facebook. So that and it is a form of media. Right, so they can feel the same way about any media, right? How dare they change the programming, right? How dare Downton Abbey end, whatever it may be. So my opinion about it is that that unlike a lot of other forms of media and social media,
more traditional,
but they've been able to ride the change right? And I respect them for that, for being able to adapt new things to keep it relevant.
That's a good point, because MySpace went the way of the, the whatever's extinct. They went away, but Facebook, like you said, has evolved and continued to survive.
And thrive.
Yeah.
And thrive, right? So they found a way to make advertising relevant. They found a way to make content relevant. Sure, people get annoyed that there's changes to it, but they quickly adopt it and move on.
I think it's also like not as in your face as maybe some of the Google ads are that just kind of throw it out there, or Microsoft that'll bury their front page with a million different ads. They kind of do it in a little bit more of a subtle way. Maybe it is there, but you just don't notice it as much. I don't know.
Well, they're really careful about parameters, right? Like any ad image cannot be more than 20% text, right?
Okay.
So you don't start getting something that looks as busy as the cover of this magazine, for example. So you don't really notice you're seeing an ad because they've controlled that text relationship. So you're seeing engaging photography instead, right? And they also they help you as an advertiser make decisions who to place the ads to. So people who find it interesting and relevant to them are seeing it. And so I'm not
That's a
seeing
good
something.
point. Right.
I'm not seeing something about maybe a sports team that I don't spend a lot of time with, because that's not in my profile.
But maybe you like politics, and so that stuff will come
Right,
up more often
right.
for
And
you.
I'll see many things about software apps or social media management apps, and I've learned about things in that way. So advertising has a value to me now.
They ditched all the games a while back too. Did you like that? Because it was a form of entertainment, but maybe people complained about it, or
Well, they still allow people to invite you to games, which they can't stop, because that's the nature of social media.
Right.
But they stopped the feed of the games, and they gave you the ability to control what you wanted to see in those relationships. So you can shut down a sponsored ad, you can shut down a game feed, you can control what you see in your news feed.
One thing I find myself doing is I always like most recent, and for some reason it always seems to default back to the
top stories.
Right, top stories.
Now that is annoying.
Yes.
That is annoying.
Yeah.
Every time you shut down or open it back up again, and actually it defaults after a certain period of time, your feed will go back to the top stories. They're doing it for a reason, right? They're
Yeah.
trying to have the experience be, again, relevant to you, and they're thinking that what you comment on, what you visit the most,
Right.
is what you're going to want to see. But for a lot of us, we want to see what's happening real time,
Right.
chronologically,
Most recent.
because that's how we're
Yeah.
wired
Right.
by the moment.
One thing that's interesting, and this is not just Facebook, but social media in general, is becoming your source for news. They made a big deal about it for Facebook. It's always been the case with Twitter for me. I always kind of look at that as, quick little 100 and X
ticker.
amount, yeah,
As it-
for news. But Facebook is doing it. That's your source for news now.
So let's talk about that.
Okay.
Right. So, good part about it is news that you choose the content for. Right. So you say, I want to know what's going on with my child's school. I want to know what's going on with the sports team I follow, a TV station I'm a fan of. Right. So you select what comes in front of you. Okay. That's the good side. Right. You're getting your time is well spent. You're seeing what you want to see. What's the bad side of that? Right. A team you never would have known about before, right? A school in another district maybe offering a new program you wouldn't have been exposed to at all, right? So it's becoming an inward-facing spiral that the content's becoming more and more filtered. And yes, we're controlling our news, but we're also limiting our exposure. So it's a double-sided sword.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I do like about it, and this is one of my new favorite things on Facebook specifically, is that whole section of hashtags where you can break it down into
Trendings?
trendings, politics or sports or science and technology or pop culture, whatever.
Yes,
I like
whatever.
that stuff
Yes.
because you can go to specifically what you want.
And you also can see things you may not have been exposed to, right?
Right.
So I like trending a great deal. The whole idea that you can, at a glance, see what's happening, right? And I also like that it made it possible for a lot of consumers to understand how media works, right? That they know that there are things that are trending higher than others, right? And a great example of that was the hashtag #DStrong campaign.
Right.
Right.
Locally, we got involved with that with our radio station.
Everyone
And this
did.
whole area locally where we're from, really all over the world now because that was the goal.
That was the goal,
But since
make
the
'em famous.
story is local,
Make them famous,
yeah.
right? Right. So consumers knew enough to know that a hashtag campaign could have both a social and an emotional impact to participate in it. And I really enjoyed watching that happen because that made it more universal and commonplace for everyone to understand how it works.
One downside to hashtags, and I don't know if I mentioned this the last time you were on the show, and this is really specific to Instagram, is whatever you post and whatever your comment is, there's a zillion hashtag words that follow because you want to try to reach as many people as you can
Yes.
with all those hashtags. And it isn't as much of an issue really on other social media, Facebook, Twitter in particular. I really think Twitter was probably the first to use the hashtag. But you don't. First of all, you're contained by how many spaces you can use on Twitter, so you can't have a million different hashtags anyway.
Well, it's currently limited. That's going to change.
That's going to change. Yeah, but Instagram, you'll see a million different hashtags on one post.
You might be exaggerating just
Slightly, yeah.
right? Maybe more like 15, right?
Right.
So at a glance, they can look very annoying, right? It looks like clutter.
You have to almost look to find the comment that they made because there's a bunch of words with hashtags.
And often more hashtags than the actual comment hashtag.
Yeah.
But they first of all, you know what a hashtag works, and maybe the viewers do as well. It's that symbol, that pound symbol that you and I grew up with on our phones.
Right.
Right. The minute it's in front of a series of characters, it becomes a searchable element.
Right.
You know, I have a dog
It's a
named
great idea.
hashtag.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I have a dog named hashtag. He's a hunter and a black lab, and that's a hunting dog, right? And the reason I choose that is because a hashtag becomes a search symbol, like a hunting dog, right? So when they click on it, everything that has that same hashtag becomes visible. I'm getting to my point here. The reason that they're using so many of those hashtags, like dogs of Instagram, cats of Instagram, right?
Cats, pets,
right?
yeah.
Right, is that some people follow particular threads than others, right? And you click on that particular one, like you might be a fan of dogs of Instagram. You click on that, you will discover new things,
Right.
and you'll follow them faster.
So the goal is to expose it to as many people and groups as possible, and then you will get followed by more
Right.
people.
We launched a Instagram account for a kennel up in the Northeast area. By using hashtag dogs of Instagram, we grew them like by 170 followers in 24 hours.
Wow.
Right? Because that's a hashtag people look at a lot. They love dogs.
And there's also hashtag dogs of Twitter when you use that social
Exactly.
media space too. So you mentioned it on Twitter, them removing the restriction on the amount of characters. Your thoughts?
I think every form of media has a place and a particular passion behind it, right? Where there's passion, there's a strong following. It could be a type of music for radio. It could be a type of programming for TV, right? Right. So when you remove the strength of that particular element, make the passion less strong, followers will diminish, right? So people like Twitter because of its brevity. It was designed for a mobile device.
Right. It was designed. It took over from. It was supposed to be the same thing as texting, right?
Basically,
Yeah.
right, and it's like a ticker of quick information, right? I believe that they are going to diminish the passion of their followers by no longer keeping what their strengths are, right? Have you heard what the limit's going to be?
Like a million or something like that.
Again with the million.
I know.
Right, 4,000 to 4,252 characters,
That's a
something very abstract.
Big jump to what it is now.
140,
Yeah.
right? And they chose that particular number because it was a poem or something that someone liked at Twitter that was that or a short story that was that many characters, and they wanted to be able to tweet it.
I think when you allow people will abuse it. You know, they'll spam it a lot more ability to put in a bunch of long URLs and with a bunch of junk in there too.
Yeah, and probably more photos
Yeah.
and other things. So again, it would be like being a strong classical music station that decided that they wanted to integrate, country, top 40, and pop all within the same. Like, let's give a little bit more for what people want, right?
Yeah.
And the results will be that they will diminish the actual strength that they had. Yeah.
I think one good thing about it though is when people decide to use something to post simultaneously on all these social media pages. If it's long on Facebook and you go and read it on Twitter, you'll have to continue with a link because
see
it
the
won't.
rest of it.
Right.
Right.
So then that would force you onto the other site, the original site. So maybe it's a good thing if they allow extra characters.
I think a compromise would have been let's maybe double it.
Yeah.
I think taking it out to 4,000% of what they had before was a bit excessive.
I don't think I'll ever fill it up. I can tell you that.
I'm sure that when it happens, you will see, entire paragraphs from, Nellville will happen on there. It will be crazy.
Do Facebook and Instagram have limits at some point as far as characters? Or?
Facebook eliminated their character count limit some time ago.
Okay.
It's just completely gone. Instagram, I really don't know if they have a character.
Because there's
limit
an awful lot of hashtags, so you think it could
There's
go
a
on
million
for a
of
long
them.
a million.
Yes, clearly, there's no limit.
Let's take a break and come back. How about a website from Miranda Creative for people to go and learn more?
Sure, mirandacreative.com.
It's that simple.
That simple.
Miranda from Miranda Creative. We've got a lot more to get to, so we'll take a short break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay right there. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. Miranda from Miranda Creative is joining us again, talking about social media. Let's get back to the smartphone. How important?
Have we ever left it?
I know. It's always with us. You're
Always
right.
with us, right?
As a matter of fact, in my notes here, smartphones as primary source of internet. It really is becoming that. Even the laptop is becoming archaic.
It is, absolutely. So more than 80% of searches are being done on smartphones. More than 70% of social media activity happens via smartphones. It's pretty much the tool of now and the tool of the future.
And the screens are getting bigger, so you can almost, some phones are halfway between a tablet and a phone these
They really
days
are.
with
They
their
really
size.
are. Yeah, and yes.
And tablets can almost, not for everything, but if you're just doing your basic, internet stuff, email and Facebook and all that, your tablet can replace your laptop, right?
And pretty much. But it doesn't do too well for the phone because the whole awkwardness of taking photos. Ever see someone take a photo with their tablet?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh God, that's awkward.
It's hysterical. It's like watch them hold a magazine up in the air. Yeah.
I also think people need to learn if they're going to record videos, you got to turn it sideways so that you get your full screen. There's
Yes.
too many of these, up and down.
Right. And even worse, when you see them like they're rotated, even though they're in the wrong direction, that really makes my day on social media.
I mean, is the growth in smartphone usage, is it on a track to just continue to go up and up, and it will become it is ubiquitous now.
It is. And I think basically it will reflect the population, honestly, right? And we're going to see the next cycle, the next generations coming through, and they're larger than the boomers that are coming through. And it just will become more intense, which is why the whole issues are going on. We can have another conversation about the free internet and use of download time. It's going to become a real issue.
It is now, with just data being speaking of which, speaking of archaic, my director, who's behind the camera right now, he refuses to pay the $30 a month for data. So he has a dumb phone.
He has a flip phone.
For a dumb person, and he just won't. He just refuses to do it. He'll use the company issued phone, but there are people still like that are clinging to those old ways.
Right. And they have their reasons for doing so. I find there's a couple of factors that make them finally change.
His reason is cheapness, but go ahead.
But the biggest factor I see for change is children or grandchildren, especially the grandchildren side, right? Where all of a sudden they want to be able to see those photos, right? And see them pictures on social media that other people are seeing before them, and it's amazing how that turns them on to social media. Yeah.
Apps for the business world, that's where it's at too now, right?
Oh gosh, the actual creation of apps for
and
them, yes.
There's an app for everything now.
There is, and finding a space that's unique if you want to make an original one is a real challenge. But it isn't a challenge for being able to find an app to do for your business. There's so many ways to use a white labeled one and make one for yourself. But you need to be smart about it. It's not meant to be a mobile website. It's meant to be an app.
If you have a website that you rely on generating revenue or clicks or whatever, and then you create an app, aren't you sort of cannibalizing yourself a little bit if they can view it on the app as opposed to the website?
You could be, and we do see that happen. But it depends upon where the real money is, right? So if the real money is the relationship with that end user, more so than the advertising, you take a risk for holding on for one apple and losing two.
Right. No pun intended there with the apple. You're on the cutting edge when it comes to social media and technology in general. What's coming up? What's on the horizon that we may not be aware of yet?
I think a lot of things are already here, and they're just going to become better, right? Higher resolutions for being able to take pictures, faster technology for being able to save things, et cetera, et cetera. I think you're going to see a continued growth in social media based on particular passions and interests, right? Like last time I was here, I introduced to you I Heart It. Do you remember that? Right? And now that was funded by Forever 21, Victoria's Secret Pink Line. You're going to see a lot more of that happening, where it's social media funded by brands and people don't know it, but the kids will love it.
And you teach too.
Oh, I do. I do. I lecture, and my colleagues do as well. There's a whole group of us now that are out on the road lecturing. So you can find me at the local Chamber of Commerce. and through some college environments in the area talking about social media. And you can find it, most of it you can find on my LinkedIn profile.
All right,
You have to get one.
which I've been accused of not having. I have everything else except that one. We're out of time, so you don't get to yell at me now for that too.
Oh, next visit.
Right, and we will have you on again. Website
Sure.
one more time.
The website is www.mirandacreative.com.
Miranda, as always, when we want to learn anything about technology, social media, apps, smartphones, we come to you. Thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure. It's
All
great
right.
to see you.
You can see this show and many others on our YouTube sites. Until next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.